Hello, my friends, and welcome back to English Podcast Show. This episode has been carefully designed for upper intermediate learners of the English language. It is for all of you who already have the ability to communicate in English, but who now want to rise to the next level of fluency, independence, and confidence in speaking. I am very glad that you are here today because we are going to talk about a challenge that many learners face. Perhaps it is even a challenge that you have faced yourself. It is the strong idea or the deep belief that in order to become truly fluent in English, you must have a speaking partner. Maybe you have thought about this before. Perhaps you have said to yourself, if only I had a native speaker to practice with every day, then I would finally be able to speak English fluently. At first, this belief sounds logical, does it not? After all, language is about communication, so it seems to make sense that you would need another person on the other side of the conversation. But here's the truth. This belief is actually a misconception. Now let me explain. A misconception is simply a mistaken idea. It is a wrong assumption about how something really works. And this particular misconception has held back thousands of learners. It has created disappointment and frustration for many people who want to improve their English. The truth is this: you do not need another person to practice English with every single day. In fact, you can develop fluency completely on your own. And in many ways, independent practice, which means practice that you do by yourself, can actually be even more powerful. Why? Because you decide the pace, the rhythm, the topic, and the focus of your practice. You are not waiting for someone else to be available. Let us pause for a moment and think about why traditional learning methods often fail, especially for learners who are studying alone. When I say fail or fall short, I mean they do not give you exactly what you need in order to grow. For example, perhaps you have attended a language class with 20 other students, and in that class you only had the chance to speak for 2 minutes. Or maybe you had a speaking partner who was very friendly, but that person never corrected your mistakes. As a result, you repeated the same errors again and again without improvement. Or maybe you have relied on occasional online conversations. Those conversations may have given you a short moment of practice, but they did not give you the repetition you truly needed in order to grow. All of these methods can leave you feeling stuck, because real fluency is built by speaking consistently, again and again, every single day, until the words feel natural and automatic. So, what is the alternative? What can you do instead? The answer is something very powerful: self-directed practice. Self-directed practice means that you take the lead in your learning. You become the guide. You are the one who directs the process. And when you take charge of your own practice, you can create a fluency system that works for you every day without depending on a teacher's schedule or a partner's availability. You are free to practice at any time that you choose. One of the most effective tools that I strongly recommend is something that I call the inner conversation method. Now, this phrase may sound complicated, but in reality, it simply means talking to yourself in English. Here is how it works. You take the thoughts that are already inside your mind and you transform them into English words. You do not keep them silent in your head. Instead, you speak them out loud. For example, imagine that you are cooking breakfast. You're not simply cracking the eggs in silence. Instead, you begin to narrate your actions. To narrate means to describe out loud what you're doing, almost as if you were telling a story. You might say, "I am cracking the eggs. The pan is heating up. I think I will add some cheese." By narrating your actions, you are bringing your inner thoughts to life in English. You become the storyteller of your own daily life. Another way to use the inner conversation method is by responding to content. For example, when you watch a news video, do not just sit back and absorb the information passively. And when I say absorb, I mean simply taking in the information. Instead of being passive, talk back to the video. Pretend that the presenter has just asked you for your opinion. You might say something like, "Well, I do not completely agree with that. From my point of view, the situation is more complicated. By doing this, you are simulating a dialogue. It may not be a real conversation, but it trains your brain to respond quickly, just as if it were real." And finally, there is another very powerful technique: self dialogues. A self dialogue is when you actually play both roles in a conversation. You act as if you are two different people speaking to one another. This method is especially effective for building fluency and confidence. It might feel unusual at first, but it actually works in a very effective and beautiful way. You can use this method to practice arguments, to build explanations, and even to develop storytelling skills. For example, you can pretend that you are explaining the story of a movie to a friend. Imagine this: the main character wants to escape from the city, but he does not have enough money to do so. That is a simple example, but it shows how you can train yourself. By rehearsing both sides of a conversation, by practicing both the question and the answer, you are training the natural rhythm of English conversation, and the best part is that you can do it without even needing a partner. Of course, modern technology makes all of this much easier today. We now have artificial intelligence conversation partners, such as ChatGPT. Imagine that it is midnight and you suddenly want to practice ordering food in a restaurant. With artificial intelligence, you can practice immediately. There is no need to wait for tomorrow's class or to schedule a special session. And let us not forget about personalized learning paths. The word personalized means specially designed, tailored, and adapted just for you. Many applications today can analyze your progress and then suggest what you need to practice next. This way, you do not waste your time repeating material that you already know. Instead, you concentrate your effort on the areas that will push you forward, the areas that will help you improve. Now, let us talk about your daily fluency blueprint. A blueprint is like a plan, a program, or a design that you can follow step by step. The truth is that your plan does not need to be complicated. Even just 15 minutes a day of focused and consistent practice can completely transform your fluency over time. The word transform means to change, usually in a very positive way. Think about it like physical exercise. You do not build real strength by going to the gym once for 3 hours and then stopping for weeks. You build strength by exercising a little bit on a regular basis, week after week, month after month. The exact same principle applies to learning English. So, what might this daily routine actually look like? In the morning, as you are getting ready, narrate your own actions. For example, say, "I am brushing my teeth. I am choosing what to wear today." In the afternoon, listen to a short podcast or watch a short video and then speak back to it. Add your own opinion. Share your own thoughts. In the evening, practice a short self-dialogue. Pretend that you were telling someone about your day. For example, "Today I was very busy. First, I had to do this task, and then I had to complete that task." By practicing in this way, you will have spoken English 3 different times during the day without depending on anyone else. Here is another very powerful tip: track your progress. The word tracking means keeping a record, following what you do over time. For example, you can record your voice once every week and save it. At the beginning, you will hear many mistakes, but after several weeks and months, when you compare your recordings, you will clearly notice your progress. This can be incredibly motivating, and it gives you the energy to continue moving forward. And this brings us to the long-term vision. Fluency is not something you reach in one single big step. Instead, it is something that you slowly construct. You build it piece by piece, just like building a house, brick by brick, word by word, sentence by sentence. If you continue to show up every day, even with small but consistent efforts, you will create something permanent, strong, and powerful. So let us now return to the central question of today's episode here on English Podcast Show. Do you really need a partner to practice speaking English every single day? The answer is no. You can absolutely develop fluency on your own. You do not necessarily need another person in order to progress. What you truly need are the right methods. One of the most effective is called the inner conversation method. This means that you create conversations in your own mind as if you were talking to another person, and you practice both sides of that dialogue. Another very powerful technique is to practice self-dialogues. In other words, you ask yourself questions in English and you also answer them in English. A third method is narrating your daily life. For example, when you are cooking, walking, or working, you can describe what you're doing step by step in English. Along with the right methods, you also need the right tools. Today, there are incredible tools available to you. For instance, you can use artificial intelligence partners such as ChatGPT to practice conversations in real time. And of course, above everything else, what you really need is consistency and a clear vision of where you want to go with your English learning journey. Remember this important principle. Every single time you speak out loud in English, you are strengthening your fluency muscle. Speaking is just like exercising. The more you do it, the stronger you become. You do not need to wait for permission. You do not need to wait for a partner. You already have everything you need to start speaking right now. If you found this episode useful, I want to give you a simple but powerful challenge. Right after listening to this podcast, speak out loud. If you disagree with something I said, say it out loud in English. That is perfectly fine because you are still practicing. If you agree with me, summarize what you have just learned in your own words. You can also try creating a short self-dialogue or narrating the very next thing you're going to do in English. Begin your daily solo fluency journey now, because in reality, the best partner you could ever have for your English journey is yourself. Thank you very much for joining me today here on the English Podcast Show. My mission is to help you learn English slowly, clearly, and with confidence. Until next time, keep listening, keep learning, and keep believing in yourself. Bye for now.